Audric Estime is not going to make the team. He'll be on the practice squad. The Denver Broncos are too good. Yes, you heard me right. The Denver Broncos are too good when cut day comes down. They are going to have to release good players, and Sean Payton believes those players will be picked up by other teams. This is such a different scenario than the Broncos were in 2-3 years ago, where the Broncos actually had to claim guys on waivers because their team just wasn't good enough. Now the Broncos have good starters, good enough where Sean Payton believes they can win the Super Bowl this year, and good enough backups where those backups that they have to cut might be picked up by other teams. Broncos have a lot of tough decisions to make between Sean Payton and George Payton. It's going to be tough to narrow this team down to 53. So we're diving into the surprise cut candidates. Henry, who is the number one surprise cut that the Broncos could make?
I've got Adam Trautman. I look at this tight ends room, and yeah, I think he's going to make the team, of course. He's a good veteran, but you've got a bunch of guys there who have been encouraging. It'd be a lot easier to say this if Caden Prescorn hadn't fumbled at the goal line. If he would have capped off an awesome training camp with awesome preseason games, including that touchdown, it would have been a lot easier to say you can't let him walk. Lucas Kroll fits this scheme so much better, specifically how they've changed the running game around this year, that I don't think that you'd want to lose him. I think there's reason to be optimistic. With Nate Adkins coming back eventually, whether it's a month into the season or so, you have kind of that veteran-ish presence. Not that he's that old, but because he plays like a vet down the line, and you're not going to cut Loner. I think there are tough decisions there. Again, odds would say there won't be a cut of Adam Trautman, but I do think that all of a sudden this does seem like it's feasible.
Yeah, and that would be a big name right there. I mean, You're starting tight end throughout last season, a guy who is clearly your number 2 tight end in training camp right now. Maybe you could flip him for something. That would really surprise me if that is the name, but that's a really good candidate for a surprise cut right there. I'm going to go with a name that even more people might be familiar with, Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't know if this one happens, but Henry, the way the running back room is shaping up, it leaves Jaleel in an interesting spot. Jaleel is really good at doing a specific thing, but he's not an all-around running back. But he's really good at doing a specific thing. That's why if the Broncos do cut Jaleel, he will be picked up by another team, I believe, and be a third running back on some team. But with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, you have the speed, you have the power, you have guys that can do it all, and it can be fast, can be explosive. That's kind of the role Jaleel fits. What you don't have, you only have one guy with JK who is like an all-around back that is a pass blocker that you can trust, that Sean Payton can trust. Jaleel doesn't really fit that. So if, and I'm touching wood here, I'm knocking on wood, if JK gets hurt, RJ, you don't know if he can step into that do-it-all, trustworthy role right away that JK steps into. And I don't think Jaleel slides into that role either. So I think Tyler Bidet could make this roster. Blake Watson could even fill that role maybe better than Jaleel as well. And if the Broncos only keep 3 running backs, I think Jaleel might be the odd one out. Now, if they keep 4, I think Jaleel probably makes it with the Tyler Bidet or Blake Watson. But if they only keep 3 running backs, and I can see that happening because Sean barely plays his third running backs in NFL games, 4% of the time does he play his third running back. So you don't really need a 4th running back then. You can keep him on your practice squad. Audric Estime is not going to make the team. He'll be on the practice squad. And then you can put Blake Watson or Tyler Bidet on the practice squad. I think that Jaleel could be a surprise cut candidate.
Yeah. I go back to, I think that Jaleel is more likely to be picked up by another team than Tyler Bidet or Blake Watson. And because of that, I think it's a lot easier to say, hey, we can just put one of those guys on the practice squad and keep Jaleel here. And if we need one of them on a game day, we can do that. If we decide we want him every game day and we can call him up after 3 weeks and put him on the active roster and then make a decision then. I just think that the easiest way to keep as much talent in the room as possible is to keep Jaleel on the active roster, move Bidet and Watson to the practice squad. If you lose one, it stinks, but, you know, you still have the other.
We might be even too much in the weeds because the number 1 surprise cut candidate is a 5th round pick from last year. Now, it's pretty clear to us where this is trending with Audric Estime, but Henry, he has to be mentioned on this list because not only do I think he's a candidate, I think he is not going to make this team, and he is going to be not a surprise cut, but a bigger name cut. A 5th-round pick from a year ago is notable. Maybe not massive, but it's notable.
Yeah, I'd be a surprise if he makes the team, I think. Like, I think that'd be the surprise. I think it's more likely he misses. But yeah,
Let me throw out another drafted guy from, I guess, 2 years ago, J.L. Skinner.
Yeah.
I think he makes the team, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's out because he's right now your 5th safety.
He's in a better position because you don't have a lot of special teams ability with your receivers and your cornerbacks, and you got to find it somewhere. And so I don't even know that the competition is for him as a safety. It's probably competition between him and Damari Mathis as a special teamer, or him and none of these running backs seem like they add much on special teams, which makes it kind of tough. Jaleel can return. Blake Watson could certainly return, but those guys are easier to find. You could put Troy Franklin. You have plenty of options for returners. But your receivers, you got Trent Sherfield. Nobody else really excels on special teams there. So that's why I lean towards Skinner making it, but there's certainly no confidence behind that statement. There are a few other guys. Keedron Smith in that same room might be the more exciting prospect at this point. So we'll see.
I've got 2 more, Henry, that I want to throw your way. You tell me if either of these would be a surprise. Eni Uwazurike. I think he's playing great in training camp. In fact, this might be a guy that the Broncos would be able to trade during this cut down time because he is a good player. But Henry, right now, he's your 7th defensive lineman. The Broncos are so deep on defense, specifically in the trenches on that defensive line. He might be a name that just because of numbers-wise, you get to the end and you're like, man, we just can't keep him because of 7 guys. And the other name on the flip side is Lucas Kroll, a guy that that is a name that's picked up popularity in Broncos country. I don't think he makes it because of Caleb Lohner just taking his job as that receiving tight end developmental guy.
Yeah, going back to Uwazurike. So game days, you got your 3 starters, DJ, JFM, Zach Allen. You've got Malcolm Roach as your 4th. Jordan Jackson is probably your 5th. Those are the 5 guys in uniform. So if you're going to pick others, you want guys who are prospects. Savion Jones is certainly one of them.
He's a lock.
Exactly. And so now it's, are you willing to keep another? And it comes down to that same conversation. Like, do you like some of those depth offensive linemen? How do you feel about your running backs? Do you want to keep a 4th? Can you save a spot there? And one of the options that they would have is keeping Eni, who again practices at points, looks dominant. Would love to see him have a big 3rd preseason game because it just hasn't quite translated to the game. Sometimes gets pushed around a bit, looks a little bit lost out there. But I don't think he's far off. I think he's very much in that conversation. I've got him just on the outside looking in, but not by much. And it's kind of coin flips for a lot of these guys. You brought up Lucas Kroll. I mentioned tight ends before. Coming into camp, I thought Lucas Kroll was just kind of locked out. The Nate Adkins injury changes how you have to think about the room. Like which 2-3 guys do you want on the field on game days week 1? And all of a sudden, it's tough to say Lucas Kroll isn't one of those 3 guys that you would want out there. Now, is it worth using that roster spot? Would you rather go with Caden Prescorn, who can do a lot of the same things but isn't quite there? Could you, as I said, just go crazy and say, we like these young guys and we want to get them reps, and so we can justify moving on from Adam Trautman? Odds are slim that's the way it goes, but Lucas Kroll, because of the Adkins injury, is now back in the picture and could really go either way.
Now, to wrap up this conversation, Henry, I'm going to throw out 3 names that could be surprise trade candidates for the Broncos. The Broncos are not going to cut these guys, but they could be traded right before cutdown day. And I'll go in order of how likely I think they are. Now, I don't think it's going to happen, but don't be surprised if you see these. Bless you.
Thank you.
Devon Vele, a guy who was a stud as a rookie. You couldn't have asked more from him as a 7th-round rookie. But now he might be a guy not getting a roster on game day among your 6 receivers. If you're only going to give a roster to 5, he might be the odd man out right now. If you can get something in return, maybe you consider it. Jaquan McMillan. You drafted Jahdae Barron to be his replacement. Now, it might not be totally convincing by week 1 that he is that replacement, but by the middle of the season, it should be. Jaquan should be your 4th cornerback. If you're able to get something for him and you have Chris Abrams drain his depth, That could potentially happen. And then one that I would highly advise not to do, but if the Broncos are blown away by an offer for Jarrett Stidham, because let's say someone else's quarterback goes down and they just saw what Jarrett Stidham did in the preseason where he was a preseason MVP, essentially, maybe you consider an offer there.
Yeah. Going back to the start, Vele, he's a Sean Payton receiver. Like a lot of guys want fast receivers. Guys want a little bit shiftier receivers. Sean Payton has a type. He talks all about the short legs from Devon Vele, how he really likes that, and the big frame. There's a lot of things about him that just make him a perfect fit for Sean. Makes him more valuable to Sean than anybody else. Broncos have depth. Every team, there's so many receivers that come out every year. There aren't many teams that don't like their 5th, 6th receivers. That's why receivers hardly ever get claimed off of waivers. On cutdown day, there have been 3 in the past 4 years. Maybe somebody's willing to give something up for Devon. I'd guess that they probably aren't. And even if they were, I think Sean would rather say like, hey, we have 5 guys that we like putting out there. Let's just keep those 5 and see who pops, because who knows? Maybe Devon Vele turns out to be the best or the second best or even the third best 2 years from now, and you're happy you did it. Second one was Jaquan. Jaquan still he's your third best cornerback right now. You know, we're still waiting for Jahdae Barron to kind of clear that. And I think that that's a tough piece to get rid of. In theory, you want to move him down to number 4, and hopefully Jahdae breaks out and you say, we got to get this guy on the field more. As it stands now, I don't think that you want to move on from that guy at this moment. Although with Chris Abrams-Drain, you could justify it if you wanted to. You'd bump Riley into the slot because Chris Abrams-Drain, a little bit slight for that spot. You could make it work. I don't think it's worth it. Even in all these things, it doesn't really matter to me what the other team is willing to give up. Like, to me, I don't care. Oh, 3rd round pick versus 4th round pick. To me, it's just, is this guy going to help us win this year or is he not? And if he's not, then yeah, let's go maximize the value.
Well, and Henry, you're in a Super Bowl window. That's what Sean Payton told us. So I completely agree with you. You don't shop these guys unless you're absolutely blown away by an
Super
offer.
Bowl 48. Imagine if the Broncos had one more good corner with no Chris Harris playing in that game. Sure, it would have been nice to have Jaquan just be able to sub in at that moment.
Well, and then on the other side, Super Bowl 50, think about the depth that you had behind Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware. You had Shane
showed
Ray
up over and over.
And Shaq Barrett. Any final names that you need to throw out that we should potentially be aware of?
PJ Locke. Again, another one of these guys who probably almost certainly isn't going to get cut. But, you know, when you look at, he was a starter, you send a guy in front of him, you can save $6 million if you moved on. But we talked about the safety depth before. It isn't the most exciting position behind PJ Locke. Keidron Smith has made the roster as an undrafted free agent before. JL Skinner still has some talent. Devin Keys played some football. None of those guys have shown that they are future starters, though. So if you can just keep a stopgap in there and PJ Locke and keep yourself in good position if Talanoa Hufanga goes down, as has happened before, knock on wood, then you're probably making the right decision.
It's a great name to keep an eye on. Let us know in the comments below. Who do you think could be the biggest surprise cut candidate? We look forward to hearing from you.